A very good morning to everyone present here. I, Swati Sharma, feel privileged to welcome you all on behalf of Geeta Ratan International Business School in the eminent lecture series based on the theme Gender Sensitization and Women Issues. Geeta Ratan International Business School was established in the year 2004. The institute is affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, and is approved by All India Council for Technical Education, Ministry of HRD, and Government of India for Technical Programs, and Bar Council of India for Law Programs. GIBS is currently offering postgraduate programs like MBA, MBA International Business, and MCA Integrated, and undergraduate courses, namely BBA LLB, BA LLB, and BBA. It has been graded A by National Assessment and Accreditation Council in second cycle. It is an ISO 9001 2015 certified institute. GIBS has been rated A+ by State Fee Regulatory Committee, a fee committee of Government of NCT of Delhi, and rated highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and GGS IP University. It has been rated grade A by Academic Audit Cell of GGS IP University consecutively from the past 8 years. Also, GIBS has been rated as number 2 pan-India by Times Business School Survey consecutively for the year 2018 and 2019. The institute has been conducting eminent lecture series for its students with a view to develop their overall social and industrial perspective. And this year as well, a series of eminent lectures are being planned for our students. And one of such lectures is being planned today, which is based on the theme Gender Sensitization and Women Issues. And main aim of this lecture is to make students aware of gender sensitization and women issues. And today we have with us Dr. Anjali Nigam to share her knowledge on the topic. She is the CEO and founder director at White Swan Consulting Group. She is 8 times internationally and nationally awarded for work in gender equality, diversity and inclusion, and value education. She is working on gender equality in 120 plus organizations pan India and is continuously working in training and consulting for prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace, women's safety, gender sensitization, and regenerating values. She has been on a mission for creating gender equality and safer workplaces and communities for women since December 2012. Ma'am, we are honored to have you here.
Thank you, Swati. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes, and thank you for such a glowing introduction. Really humble. Thank you, everyone. And I'm very happy and honored to be, invited by an institute which is number 1 and number 2 in so many things. And you are actually rated as one of the best upcoming institutes in India. I wish and pray that you, reach more and more heights. And yes, the area of today's session is very pertinent. And what I would like first to do is to just, make it full screen. Can you see it full screen? Can you see the slides full screen?
No, ma'am, not full screen, but I can see the slides.
Okay, right. Okay.
No, ma'am, it's visible. No issue if it's not full screen.
Just bear with me for a second.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. Is it full screen now? Hello, Swati, is it full
No,
screen?
ma'am.
Oh, it's
No,
still
ma'am.
not. So what do we do?
Ma'am, it's visible. It's readable, so no issue.
But it's not a good idea to be running like this, why is it not 16? Can you do it from your end?
No, ma'am. As you have shared, so you can do that.
Okay, so I'll just stop sharing, and then what I'll do is,
Yes.
hmm, uh, yeah, it is good now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good. So, well, thank you everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. And I believe you are 180 odd today. Is it, Swati? 180 students with us today.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So this
Yes,
is a
ma'am.
role. This
Some
is
are
a
joining. Yes.
so how many of them are there now? How many do we have right now?
Ma'am, currently we have 50.
Okay, 50 students. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So great. So 50 is a very good number, and I'm very proud to be here because it's the area which we are talking today is like gender sensitization, which is very, very pertinent to you today, tomorrow, and always in your in wherever you are, whatever domain in which you are living your life. It can be your family life, it can be your college life, it can be your corporate life, and later the world global life. So wherever you are, the sensitivity, your sensitivity quotient towards the other gender or genders. Now we are talking about genders. We don't talk about one gender, male to female or female to male. We talk about so many genders now, right? So your sensitivity quotient towards other genders is a very, I would say, would be rated, every second of your life, in especially in corporate and at the global level. Your quotient, that is why I'm talking about your quotient, for on a scale of say 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself when you think of, or when you analyze yourself, how sensitive you are towards the other gender's needs. So it is very simple. Uh, uh, for example, how can I be more sensitive to the other gender? For example, I'm a woman, right? And the team which I have is little, some females, others are males. And today, in any corporate, you have project based teams, right? So, projects generally are time bound, right? Client bound and time bound. And what they do is they don't take just anybody on a project. Uh, it is something called competency mapping, which we do, right? We create competence maps, and depending on the competencies of each individual and the skill sets and the competencies required to do that project, we will actually select those individuals who align the two, whose competencies aligned with what is needed, right? So now what happens is, in such a case, we have very high powered teams. We have very high power, high. Now, at this, I was, consulting and training about 1,400 to 2,000 employees of a Japanese MNC on the same topic, gender sensitivity, and of course, prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace through regenerating values. So, what we this plant was in a very remote area. And generally, what the Indian government is doing, especially in Haryana, they are giving spaces in the outskirts of the city, right? Places like Manesar, etc., to for these international multinational companies to set up their uh, manufacturing units, because to prevent pollution for the common man. So now this, since this facility is in a remote area, so automatically what happens is it's little isolated. It is, it's not, the external factors are not in our control. So what happens is the safety and the security of everyone, especially women, becomes a question mark when you venture out, right? And Haryana, you would know, is a very wonderful state, but safety and security has its issues, right? Um, so this one they were having a meeting, and they had to deliver this project to this very important client, and the timelines were almost kind of nearing the end of the timeline, and they had to deliver it. Now, what they came out with a suggestion that, abhi to hamare a lot of work is still to be done. Now, what do we do? What we do is like we work overtime, and we so the whole team was there, and everybody was discussing what should we do, and the boys volunteered, and the team lead said, let us work extra hours. And so now what the boys said, since this place was in a very remote area, and the external factors like safety, security was not, it was not really to that level where you could just ask women to leave at 8 o'clock, or after working late hours, and leave office. So what the boys said was, let the women, the girls leave on time. We will stay back. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about gender sensitivity, being sensitive to the other person's needs, to the other gender's needs, right? Now, what? So when the boys volunteered this, so the girls were really happy, and so they said, okay. So the boys continued, and the girls did their work and left home from office at the stipulated office time. And when the girls came in next day, so they were thinking, now what would you do if you were in their place? Now, what would I do? I will tell you what would I do. I would, ask these boys to come a little late. I'm talking about the sensitivity quotient, right? So I would tell them, since you have stayed back so late, you can come in. You've stayed back late in the evening, in the night. So do come in late in the morning. What we will do with the girls, we will come in early, because morning is absolutely fine with us. It's not unsafe. So we will come early, you come in late, and we will take stock of the work in the morning, and after office you can take it up from there. So what happened was, there was this very beautiful understanding, which same thing happened when I was giving consulting to a company called Tecrity Software. It's an IIT Delhi company, and I'll not go into the details of what we did, but I'll just tell you what we did was, a simple thing was, when I am a team member, I'm talking about gender sensitivity. So when I'm a team member, I'm a woman, and the team leader may be a man, or vice versa, or any other gender. Then what happens is, I feel I am contributing so much, and the team leader is like, gets all the credit. So now what happened was, I created a system of rotating team leaders, right? So rotating team leaders was like these. Everybody got to call the shots. Of course, the important negotiations and discussions with important clients were not touched. That remained with the team leaders. But otherwise, maintaining the internal operations of the team, and allocating work, and analysis, and testing, and debugging, all those things, whatever, role allocation was there. But point is that the main role as a team lead was getting rotated. So what happened was, we could actually empathize with the others. Now the employees, they said, ma'am, now we are on the other side of the fence also. He can actually empathize कि actually team lead को कितने सारे challenges होते हैं जब मैं team lead बना. So when I become the team lead, that is only when I realize, so many challenges are there. It's not easy to be a team leader. So the result was very high level of empathy, which was which came into play, which developed between the team members, and that became a glue to keep them together. And believe me, I have testimonials to this effect. Many other high power management systems I applied there, but this was one which really worked. And I had team leaders later telling me, "Ma'am, we have actually become so close as a team. We are so sensitive to the other gender's needs, to the other team members' needs. We work so cohesively now. We work strategically and we work cohesively. The dynamism in the team, the synergy in the team has become so wonderful because once you see both sides of the fence, all the roles, so you start, and so that is what I'm trying to drive here is empathy is a key to gender sensitivity. Any diversity sensitive, being diversity sensitive, diversity is more prolific, it's an extension of not just gender but any kind of diversity. So if we are talking about only gender sensitivity now, of course empathy, because you're all human beings, and every human being has their need, right? So therefore this prayer comes to my mind. हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद की जय। मतलब तो दूसरों में जो हमको कभी गलतियां दिखती हैं, अरे उसने मुझे मेरे लिए नहीं सोचा, उसने मेरी नीड को नहीं देखा, मुझे नहीं समझा, मेरी परफॉर्मेंस को नहीं, so what I have to do is, instead of telling others, I have to first see in myself what is that is required to be kind of changed in myself or modified in my behavior or developed in my attitude and as a skill, so that I'm a better human being, I'm a better member, I'm a more contributing person in the society and the organization, at the family, at the neighborhood, and at the global village level, right? So I'll just tell you a small story. There were two pictures. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Good. So I'll just tell you the story of two pictures. And these two, there was this old man who had two pictures. Now he lived on top of a hill. His hut was at the top of the hill, and every day he would climb down the hill, taking his two pitchers and fill them up with water, and again climb back to his hut. This was every day, morning, evening, right? Now this one pitcher had a crack in it, right? And every day when this man would be carrying water, half of the water of that cracked pitcher would actually flow out by the time he reached his hut. And these pitchers, this pitcher was very sad, especially the cracked one, right? And one day it told the old man, "Oh, I'm very sorry that you work so hard, and but I'm not able to give you my full service. By the time you reach, you go all the way down, fetch that water, climb up, but by the time you reach your home, half of my water has flown out, and I'm sorry about this." So the man said, "Don't worry." So the man took again went down, right, carrying those pitchers, went down and filled them up. And then while climbing up, so every day he used to climb from the side he used to climb. He said, "Just see what is it there." So he showed that picture. There was beautiful, lovely yellow daffodils billowing in the air on the whole road on that side of the road, which he would climb up. And the water which would flow from that picture had actually watered those pollens and seeds and germinated them and made them into, grow them into beautiful, bloom into beautiful daffodils. So what I'm trying to say here is, I love this story because who, it is a, every human being has their contribution. Every person, every, even inanimate objects, everybody has their contribution. So point is, what do we see? Now, being sensitive to the other genders, what I see in others is, do I see the half glass full or do I see the half glass empty? So it is up to us. There is a picture on the wall, right? Which is, there's a sun and it is near the mountains. So it is my, my thoughts. It is my weather inside myself, which tells me I can see it as a rising sun. I can see it as a setting sun. It's just a picture. So again, so my submission to you is, because you are such wonderful. I love the student power. I'm so fond of students. I feel there is nothing in this world which you cannot achieve. And if you unite, and if the strength which you have can just leave no stone unturned. Nothing is. When I was very small, in school, about 6th, 7th, and there would always be some phrases on my school notice board. I only remember one. Nothing is impossible in this world. And that really got imprinted in my mind. Whatever bandwidth God has given me, I never think that it is a limiting bandwidth, and it never puts me down. And seriously, thought never comes in my mind that I cannot do something. And believe me, you have much more potential than anybody else. So never ever underestimate yourself, and you can be, your sensitivity quotient can be as elastic, as stretchable as you want it to be. Now, why I'm showing you this slide is basically, there is a classical systems approach and there is a quantum systems approach. What does the classical theory say? The classical theory says that whatever the variables in question, I'm not a science student, but I love this concept because it resonates very well with especially the gender sensitivity, right? And especially in today's context, because today we see there is so much complexity which has come into the environment. There is not just one factor which drives us. There's so many things which are going in our head all the time, right? Even you students, you have projects, you have exams, you have the curriculum, you have submissions, you have other tests which you want to do, or you have family, you have parents to obey, you have teachers to who tell you. I think. Right, so then you have friends, then you have peer pressures, then you have so many things, right? You'll tell me that so much more is going on in your heads, right? And then there's so much happening in the world which is affecting you, which is influencing you. You keep, so much is going on. So see the connections here. It's so now what happens is, as per the classical systems approach, the variables, whatever variables, right, they move in a line. So all the relationships are linear. Say, for example, if we take it as if we take example of say in terms of gender relations. Say, for example, if I'm talking to a person, a man, and he's a peaceful person. He's generally very quiet and docile, and he doesn't get angry. So, as per the classical systems theory, it will be linear in terms of whatever the situation. When I talk to him, I know that he's going to be peaceful. He's going to reply calmly to me. He will not be angry, right? So that is a given. So as per right? So therefore, they're a linear relationship. Now, but today, the quantum systems approach becomes more relevant here. The quantum systems theory becomes more relevant here. Why? Because as I told you, there's so much going on in our minds, in everybody's mind. There's such a lot of complexity which is there. So therefore, quantum is a bundle. Quantum is basically bundle of energy, bundles. So the peaks and troughs, right? So now, if the same person, I'll give you an example, a live example. There was this KPO, international KPO we were training, and this gentleman, we were doing the top management training that day, and we always do all levels, right, from top to bottom, so that everybody is on the same page, and we are able to create a required culture by our trainings. So this first training was for the directors and HODs, and this HOD of training was sitting. So when we were discussing these the law on prevention of sexual harassment as with gender sensitivity and regenerating values, this gentleman suddenly gets up and asks me, "Ma'am, I do training workshops, and when after the training, I pat the back of my students. Sorry, the employees who come and take the training." So I said, fine. Basically, it's prevention of sexual harassment law we were discussing, right? I right. So so he asked me, "Should I keep doing it, ma'am?" I said, "What?" He said, "Patting the back of my participants after they finish the training." I said, "Why do you do that?" He said, I want to motivate the participants." I said, "Okay, I cannot tell you you should do it or not do it, because I cannot give you advice. It is up to you. You take a call. I'll show you the situation in 3 different scenarios." So how did I show him the 3 scenarios was, the first day a girl comes in, a lady comes in who has been in the system for about 7-8 years in this international KPO. And international KPOs, generally the cultures are very open cultures, like body touching and putting their hands on each other's shoulders and backs and calling them, even sweetheart is not a big deal. It's part and parcel of the culture. It's 11 o'clock. So this lady comes in for the training, and after she finishes the training, the HOD training comes and pats her on the back, and she says, okay, thank you, and she goes away. Right? The first scenario. The second day, a girl comes in who is new to this culture. And she's from a different region also, from a different region where a little more conservative culture is. She's been brought up and she's been bred into, and she does the training very conscientiously. And when she's about to leave, this gentleman, the HOD training again comes in and starts patting her on the back. Now this girl is not used to it, so she's like, she doesn't say, but and we know that the body language, actually conveys more than 95% of message, right? Communication. So she doesn't say I do, because she doesn't know the culture of this organization, but she's quite perplexed, and she shows her perplexity, the perplexity of the thoughts. So she just leaves, right? Now, next week, the first lady who came in, who is into this culture, again has to, come in for a training. Now what happens is, in multinationals, if you are deputed for a training, if you have to, you just have to take it. Now, today, when the training she was supposed to attend the training, the day started slightly different for her. She had a lot of chaos at home, and mentally she was not very happy. She was stressed, and when she reached office, she was really not very good, in a very good mood. So somehow she reaches the training room, because physically at least she has to be present. She reaches there, she very laboriously takes the training, completes it somehow. And by the end of the training, she's relieved, okay, fine, the training is over. And the gentleman, the HOD training again comes up, and he puts his hand on her back and he starts patting. Oh my God, now today, the same lady, the first day Wali lady saying, now today she's like, I'm talking about the bundles of energy. I'm talking to you the classical systems approach and this quantum systems theory applicable today. Today, her mind is, she's so stressed, she just blows off. What is this? Take off your hands. I don't like this. Why do you touch all the time? And she actually lodges a complaint of sexual harassment because the frequency is very high and there is enough witness. Everybody knows that this gentleman has a habit of body touching. Now, what I'm telling you here is being sensitive to the other person's need also involves empathy. Putting myself in the other person's shoes and think what he would like me to do or not do, say or not say, right? Now, this is very difficult. Believe me, students, not easy. But we have to keep कट अपने को रिमाइंड करते रहना है कि मुझे I have to think from other perspective, from the other person's perspectives in terms of what would I like, or what would I like for my if I tell the men, if what would you like for your wife, what would you like for your daughter, what would you like for your mother, what would you like for your sister? If you won't like anybody putting their hands on your mother's shoulder, any man coming and just any man coming and putting a hand on her shoulder, then you don't do it for others as well. That's basically empathy, and that's being sensitive to the other persons. Are you with me? So that is the relation, that is what I'm talking about. Today, the quantum systems theory is more applicable because, we are so complex. The environment, external environment is so complex, and hence our thinking is also, it's so jumbled up, so many things, so many stressors, so many things are going on in our mind at the same time that sometimes we may be very peaceful, but sometimes we may be stressed, as in the case of this lady. The first day she was quite peaceful, she was happy, and she just said, okay, thank you, no problem. But the next week, she just blew up and she complained, right? So that is why empathy plays here a very empathy, especially empathy, plays a very big role when we are talking about sensitivity to diversity or any kind of diversity, bottom line, gender sensitivity, right? And, well, so this is the course on 30-hour course for Delhi University, which we had developed on gender sensitization, diversity, inclusion, where this is not part of your session. We will just run through it. So I'll just run a small video for you, because when we talk of gender sensitization, we also talk about, we also talk about gender biases. We also talk about gender.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This.
1 second. Okay. Yeah. Can you see this video?
No, ma'am.
You can't see the video.
I just can see the PPT only.
Oh, okay. Just again, you'll have to give me 30 seconds.
Ma'am, just click on the link once again.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll share it. Once, phone tab. uh, hmm,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Now it's visible.
great. So, um, so when we talk of gender sensitivity, we also talk of gender biases. We also talk of gender stereotypes, right? And we also have gender facts. Okay. So now, when we think of a farmer, and I ask you to draw a farmer, what kind of clothes will you make the farmer wear? Can you answer, somebody? What kind of clothes?
Ma'am, they can't answer.
Okay,
They can just, write. Yes, it's a chatbot.
okay. I think next time we should have Google Meet or something. This is not a very good platform. Anyway, your choice. But Google Meet and all have very good
Yes,
applications. Never mind.
correct, ma'am.
So generally, what I'll answer for you, students, generally, people, 80% of the people will draw a person with a kurta and a dhoti and a turban, right? That is a man when you talk of a farmer. But actually, we have more women in farming today. So that's a gender bias or gender stereotype, right? So gender stereotype, gender bias, gender fact is a very thin line between. When I say that, I'll just show you this video, and then we will see that how the gender stereotypes and actually the gender biases, the walls are shattering because of this study. Now there is a lot of study which is going on the male and female brains, right? In Pennsylvania University. Which, earlier it was led by a lady called Dr. Ragini Verma from India, and very highly sophisticated study, which has actually given us a lot of food for thought in terms of, it's a longitudinal study over over many years, right? So it's basically helping us to understand that the like men are better drivers, or men are women are better cooks. Now these are all biases, these are all stereotypes. And what is that? Will now this research is helping us to identify actually if it is a fact or it is a bias or it is a stereotype, right? So I'll just play it for you, and then you decide, and then we'll have a little discussion.
A recent article published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences suggests that male and female brains differ in very stereotypical ways. By looking at brain scans, researchers found that, quote, scans showed greater connectivity between the left and right sides of the brain in women, while the connections in men were mostly confined to individual hemispheres. The only region where men had more connections between the left and right sides of the brain was in the cerebellum, which plays a vital role in motor control. So essentially, the study is saying that men's brains are structured in such a way that they're better with perception and coordinated action. So in essence, it plays into our stereotypes of why men are better drivers and why they're chefs, and why they're hairstylists, right? They can more easily perceive something and then use their motor functions and control it. Right. So women's brain traffic, on the other hand, flows much more easily from left to right brain, which has some implications for multitasking, particularly between analytical and intuitive processing modes. So as one of the researchers explains, quote, if you look at functional studies, the left of the brain is more for logical thinking. The right of the brain is for more intuitive thinking. So if there's a task that involves doing both of those things, it would seem that women are hardwired to do those better. What are your initial thoughts? Do you buy it? Are we reinforcing stereotypes here?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, but it's kind of, in some ways, it's like, so what? There's a bit of a so what. I mean, we know that women and men think things differently. We look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever.
Well, not necessarily.
Right?
We're much more alike than we are different. When you look at our DNA or anything, there's 1% difference versus like 99% the same. We're made of the same stuff essentially. And I think oftentimes our differences are overstated. We're more similar than we are. But this particular study I think is fascinating in that it doesn't just look at the size of your brain or size of particular parts of your brain or static images of your brain.
Right.
What it's looking at is how brain traffic flows.
Right.
So that to me is incredibly fascinating. And then the other part that I thought was really interesting is that they came to see these differences develop more in the adolescent years. So they say something like that the female brains and male brains had very few differences up to the age of about 13, but these differences became more differentiated around age 14 to 17. So the implications here are that it's not necessarily that we're born this way. It's just that perhaps we might be socialized to be this way.
That is interesting.
Isn't that cool?
So that has a direct impact on brain functionality. And what you're talking about is the neurons between, and so the connectivity within the brain itself and within the brain cells itself.
Yes, and it's essentially the way that information travels from one place to another. So the study looked at almost 1,000 participants, and they used a diffusion tensor imaging technique, which essentially allows us to really dive into the brain and see how information flows.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Very sophisticated study.
Right, of course. Interesting. And the proposition is the fact that this is actually conditioned, or something that's brought about by nurture rather than nature?
We don't know, but given that the differences, because it could be something that has to do with maybe biological differences in adolescence, at age 14. But the fact that this is, these differences are stark at age 14 and 17, but not at age 13 says something about whether or how our environment is shaping us. And I think, you say, so what? Yeah, there's the gender differences between men and women, but I think the bigger so what here and why it matters is that it has huge implications for conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. We can potentially treat men and women differently given the differences here.
Okay, so you see this study, which so you see this study, which is actually on the brains of men and women. It is a longitudinal study, and what they found that till age 13, there is not much difference between the wiring in the brains of males and females. But after age 13, that is between 14 to 17, the difference in wiring is very, very stark. It is very, it's actually from left to right for women, and from top down in male brains. Now, what are they saying? The study is not conclusive as of now because it's a longitudinal study. But what it is actually implying that maybe the environmental factors are playing a role here. In terms of the how the children are, what kind of environment in which they are brought up. Say, for example, as they're talking about adolescence as well, right? For example, when the children, the girls enter puberty. Now, what is that norms we set for our girls, and what are those norms which we have for our boys? So that is actually also shaping the wiring of the brain. That is what they are kind of the findings. So the bias which we have, engineering girls nahi kar payegi, right? But so actually ये biases की वजह से है कि अब तुम अगर देखो IITs में तो percentage जो है, चाहे वो engineering colleges में देखो, percentage of girls to boys, है ना? The proportion of girls to boys, कितनी percentage girls, कितने so वो शायद चांस नहीं देते हम, शायद हम अटेम्प्ट नहीं करते, है तो वो एक bias, वो एक now what we are talking about these days, we are talking about gender biased stereotypes. You're not talking about gender bias and gender stereotype, we're talking about gender biased इस bias की वजह से stereotype बन जाता है. Now अब हमने देखा कि यहाँ पे हमने स्टडी से क्या देखा, हमने स्टडी से ये देखा कि वो कह रहे हैं जो टॉप डाउन वायरिंग हो जाती है बॉयज मेल ब्रेन्स में, राइट, तो उससे क्या है, उससे ये है कि वो मोटर स्किल्स बेटर हो सकती है, फोकस कंसंट्रेशन बेटर हो सकता है, एग्जीक्यूशन बेटर हो सकता है. बट फॉर विमेन, फॉर द फीमेल ब्रेन्स, द वायरिंग फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू राइट सिग्निफाइज कि जो लॉजिकल ब्रेन है और इमोशनल ब्रेन है, दोनों में कनेक्टिविटी बहुत स्ट्रांग है. इस वजह से द फीमेल्स आर एबल टू डू मल्टीटास्किंग बेटर, दे हैव बेटर emotional quotients, so they are more sensitive. The sensitivity quotients can definitely be higher in terms of and then again it's a bias. If we say only women are sensitive, that will become a biased stereotype, so we can't think that. It is very subjective. हम किसी को देख के ये नहीं कह सकते वो लड़की है इसलिए वो सेंसिटिव होगी, वो लड़का इसलिए इनसेंसिटिव होगा. It's not like that, right? So how we are wired, how our brains are wired, what kind of genes we have from our parents, grandparents, what kind of environment in which we have been brought up. So environment plays a very critical role. You saw this in this just now, right? So that is why we say when the child is in the womb, I don't talk about children reared when they are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I talk about when child is in your womb. जब वो पेट में होता है बच्चा, उस समय से हमको उसको रियर करना है, उस समय से हमको उसको वो वैल्यूज देनी है, हमको उस समय से उसके माइंडसेट्स क्रिएट करने हैं. What the kind of value system you want for your child, that is the time we have to start building his, the connectivity in the brain. Okay, so I'll just share the slides once again. Can I I'll just take a picture here. Right, so okay. Where is the application window? Oh God, I always every time a new software is really playing havoc. Oh my God, where are we now? I wanted to show you one more a video. It's all gone. I don't know where am I now. पूरी screen ही चली गई. I don't know what's going on. Can you see?
No, ma'am. Just share your screen once again.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking for. Where has it gone? The PPT. Okay. Can you see the screen?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. Just see this video also. That's the very positive.
For just $67, you can make as
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh. Where was that video?
Men and women's brains are wired differently, but scientists now have pictures to prove it. Take a look at this. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania took images of nearly 1,000 young
Am I
adults'
audible to
brains.
you?
On the top of your screen is the image.
Yeah, can you hear this video? Oh, I think leave it. We've already seen. 1 second. Right. I was just looking for my PPT. Where is it?
Okay, ma'am. No issue. No issue.
Hmm. Okay, so I think we'll have to do without this. What I will try to do is leave you with some thoughts, right? One thought is we were talking about when we work on gender sensitivity, um, we have to have very high level of the quotient of empathy has to be developed in us. Now, how do we develop that empathy? It's a very simple way. I just have to see the other person. Like, for example, somebody there is some slush outside your college and somebody falls down. And what happens? What is your instant reaction? You start laughing or you start smiling and you start looking at each other and slide. थोड़ी सी तो हम मजाक बना ही देते हैं ना. उससे क्या हुआ? उसमें अब अगर हम उसी समय फौरन दिमाग में ये आए, अरे मैं गिर गया होता तो मैं गिर गई होती तो. So that is simple. That is a simple application of empathy. Anything in your college, in your workplace, in your home, in your neighborhood, somebody is fighting it out. I mean, you've seen these studies on brains, and you know that the brains of men and women work very differently in a typical ways because of the environment in which we bring up our children, because of the way they are wired. So I talk of, that is why I talk of complementarity of genders. Now, what I focus on is not competition between genders. When we talk of gender equality, for me, gender equality, today the world is talking about equal pay for equal work. Now, if a person has different competencies, if a person has different strengths, so automatically the role should be fitted into the strength of the individual. Not because he's a man or a woman, if they have the same designations or they have been given the same work, it doesn't mean that they will be delivering the same results. So unless and until the competencies, the strengths, I align to work together. See, when the universe started, how did it start? With Adam and Eve. So both have created this world the same way. That is why I talk about, if you look at the complementarity of genders, what I'm talking about is basically I complement the strength and the female strengths, and then on all gender strengths, and then we at the workplace we design roles, or at home we design roles, and then work around them. So when we say a girl has to get married and be in the kitchen, that's no longer true. It's a boy has to go into an engineering college, take a degree, do some job, and fend for his family. I don't think it's any longer true. So you girls and you boys are all very empowered today. We talk of generation equality today. The UN Women is talking about generation equality. We're talking about we've moved from MDGs, that is Millennium Development Goals, which were 8 of them, and the third one was, the gender equality, women empowerment, education for all at primary level. But it was a very limiting kind of, those goals were very limited, because it did not take into account, they were actually goals which were made by the, in the basement of United Nations headquarters by a few individuals, just 189 countries, or some few countries participating, and the few top people, executives sat together and developed this goals. So the rich countries were supposed to pay for the poor and the developing countries, and so it was like that. So just 8 of them. Now, but then we did see a lot of progress in that also, from up to say, Millennium Development Goals. We saw a lot of progress in India. If you see what progress we saw, that the primary education, we achieved parity between males and females. But when we talk of this, see, so we're talking about gender equality here, right? So gender equality, in terms of gender equality, when we, from MDGs, we move to SDGs. Now, SDGs is like from 2015 to, if we have seen 5 years of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Now, what are those Sustainable Development Goals? Are much wider, much wider in the scope. They are actually a kind of a 360-degree approach to, there are total 17 SDGs, and number 5 is gender equality. And when we talk of gender equality, a very, very big, beautiful difference is between MDGs and SDGs is like, in MDGs, they said we will try to bring the world poverty and hunger to reduce it by half. But they did not take into account the factors which actually lead, which have very strong relation with, poverty and hunger. In SDGs, that is Sustainable Development, which we launched, with the world launched, United Nations launched in 2015, in 5 years. So a very important factor here is they saw the linkage between peacekeeping in any nation and its relation to reduction in or alleviation of poverty and hunger. So they said peacekeeping is a given, is a constant. We have to work at peacekeeping first, and subsequently it will lead to reduction. And because the resources which are given out for reducing poverty and hunger will actually reach the right people if the country is peaceful and there is no internal war, right? So that is, and then we actually they are there in MDGs. They were talking about bringing poverty hunger to half, but here there are 0 goals, bringing the poverty to the poverty hunger to actually 0, absolute 0 is lani humko. We have to actually eradicate poverty hunger. And the beauty of these goals are actually holistically taking care of the holistically, the social, the political, the environmental, all the factors, the government participation, the civil society participation, the NGOs, the 189 countries together have done it, and it's a beautiful. So we have taken actually a 360-degree participation in creating these goals, and then every country has to actually implement. So all the domains taken into account, and 0 goals. That's really wonderful. The child deaths. So those kind of things which were really hurting the the world are now being taken on and a war footing in a very focused manner, holistically, by all the stakeholders together. So when we talk of gender equality, I believe it's more of complementarity of genders. I believe that we are moving towards generation equality. That's what the United Nations now talks about. When women talks about, they talk about women empowering principles. Now the 9 of them. Now 9 of these principles now have to be. We have to. My company is a WEP signatory of the Women Empowerment principles, United Nations Women's Signatory, and our work got as special mention this year. This is the first time they instituted these awards. Now, so basically, I'm working with these slum children, 3 to 15-year-old, for the last 10, 11 years. I started in 2010 to inject them in the value genes so that to keep them away from juvenile crime against women and girls. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring these children into mainstream by making them into conscious human beings. So this is now seen by the UN Women and women organizations of the world like Power to Fly as a very strong model for diversity and inclusion, as a very strong model for gender equality. Because we are trying to bring these, through these methodologies, we are trying to create a generation which is more conscious, which is more value-based, so which complements all the genders in the society. They complement each other, not pulling the rugs under the feet of each other. We bring together such roles. We create such roles in society today, which actually are complementing for all the genders who work on it. The basis their strengths. So basis their strengths, women have some strengths, men have some strengths, transgenders have some strengths, the third gender has some strengths. So all these strengths, what we do is, and then the job roles which we create, we divide based on the skill sets and the competencies and the strengths of these genders, we allocate roles to get that task done. So that is what I submit to the world today, and that is what my take on gender equality is, that gender equality in the sense of being complementary to each other for a better world order, for better worldliness, for creating better more conscious human beings who respect all and are respected by all. And that is my submission to the world through my slum children, through my students. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an encouraging session. Thank you so much.
I would like to, Swati, I would like
yes,
to have a feedback, if you can, Dr. Hoti, if he permits you. I would certainly like the students to write 1 to 2 lines of feedback. What is that they liked and what is that they want more next time, if whosoever takes the session, so that it's for you also, right? That we can get this feedback.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. We'll share that with you.
Yeah, please share it with me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for
care.
making this session so interactive and knowledgeable. And I, thank you from the entire Gibbs family. Thanks for giving your time, precious time for this session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you, Dr. Hoti. Thank you, all the students. And I just love being with students. And I really wish and hope that we could see each other. And I would certainly prefer Google Meet next time. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See each other then.
Bye.
There he is.